I'll teach you the easiest way to study medications. If you're a nursing technician or a nurse, I'm sure that at some point in your professional life, or even as a student, you've said, "Oh my God, how am I going to memorize all these medications?" Many people have already bought that AME dictionary, which is useless. If you bought it, I'm telling you now that it's useless and it's more likely to get in your way than to help you. So I'm going to tell you here, and I'm not telling you to buy my course for God's sake, that's not it, okay? That's not the purpose of this video. If you want to buy it, you'll learn a lot, but the goal here is to teach you. I want to learn and teach this on my own. This is the video for you, alright? By the way, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because I'm going to teach something that people really struggle with the most in their daily lives. Alright? No more stalling, let's go. There isn't, at least in my years of pharmacology, I can't see another way to study medications except for the way I'm going to explain. This is the way I found. So if you say, "Oh, I study in another way, a teacher taught me," man, that's fine. I'm going to talk about the way I learned, the way I teach my students not to memorize absolutely anything, but to actually learn. First thing that's going to help you, start taking notes, okay? If you haven't grabbed a piece of paper yet, pause the video and get one. Don't let this opportunity slip by. You don't want to have to watch the video again later, right? Grab the paper and start writing. There's no way around it. When you pick up a medication, let's say dipyrone, man. Dipyrone is obviously a very easy medication to understand. It's an analgesic, an antipyretic, and so on. But if you try to study medications like that, man, it's going to be the worst thing you'll ever do in your life. Why? You won't understand. Oh, dipyrone is this. But why does dipyrone lower blood pressure? Why can dipyrone cause dizziness? So you'll end up kind of crazy trying to study medications by name. Dipyrone, acetaminophen, ibuprofen. If you study this way, it won't work. Write this down. The first thing you have to do is you have to understand how the human body works. You don't have to study pharmacology before you understand how the human body works. Are you crazy? How are you going to understand a medication that acts on the body if you don't know how the body works? And I'll give you classic examples here, which I've already talked about and shown hundreds of times here on the channel, and this will help you. I'll give an example about the heart, which I think is the organ everyone loves to talk about and study. The heart has a sinus node that generates its own heartbeat. For the heart to slow down or speed up its beats, there's input from the central nervous system. And then I'll be as simple as possible, okay? But we have sympathetic and parasympathetic pathways, and these pathways release neurotransmitters. Pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that does a ton of things in the body. So it makes a lot of sense for you to study everything acetylcholine does, so you can understand various medications. Right? Write this down. I'll teach you about 10 medications with one explanation. You'll see how in this video. And there's adrenaline, which is also a neurotransmitter. Noradrenaline is another neurotransmitter. But let's just talk about these two neurotransmitters to explain the heart. Acetylcholine and adrenaline. Acetylcholine binds to muscarinic and nicotinic receptors. In the heart, the most specific in the heart are the muscarinic M2 receptors, okay? These muscarinic receptors, when acetylcholine binds to them, receive a signal and tell the heart to slow down its beating. Hey heart, let's lower your heart rate, okay? Adrenaline binds to the beta-1 receptors in the heart. And when this adrenaline binds to the beta-1 receptors, it increases the heart rate. Did you get that point? If you didn't, pause and go back until you understand. I'm not going to keep repeating it here, otherwise the video will get too long. Okay, did you get that? Now let's go to the practical part, to everyday life. You're on duty. So an elderly lady comes in with 30 beats per minute. 30 beats per minute, let's go. If the heart has a conduction system that generates 70 beats, if she's at 30, it's not necessarily excess acetylcholine. But we have circulating acetylcholine there, which is binding there, which is also lowering the heart rate a bit, but it's very low. 30 is very bad. and this will have several other implications that I won't go into detail here. Otherwise, this will drag on. So let's move on. Which medication would be indicated to increase the heart rate? Guys, let's go. Initially, atropine can be used. What is atropine? Atropine is an anticholinergic. What is an anticholinergic? It blocks muscarinic receptors, to be more specific. So if the M2 receptor, which receives acetylcholine, is blocked, acetylcholine can't bind there, and as a result, the heart rate tries to return to normal. Between 60 and 70 beats per minute, but since 30 is very low, maybe atropine won't have any effect. So what would be a medication that will actually increase the heart rate? Adrenaline as a continuous infusion, because now it will bind to beta-1 and the heart rate is around 35-38. The heart rate will get close to 100, so you have to control the dose. In the infusion, to maintain a threshold of 60 to 100 for heart rate. So what did I explain to you? That atropine, as an anticholinergic, blocks the action of acetylcholine. With that, the heart rate tries to return to normal. If it doesn't return, I can use a drug that will actually do what? It'll speed up a heartbeat that's way below normal and bring it back to normal. So, what did you learn? Acetylcholine atropine, which blocks acetylcholine muscarinic receptors, and epinephrine, which is a drug that has a million uses. I'm going to take a medication that you know. Buscopan compound. Buscopan compound has two components. First, scopolamine with dipyrone, since regular Buscopan doesn't include dipyrone. So taking Buscopan, which has scopolamine, it's an anticholinergic, just like atropine, exactly the same. So atropine and regular Buscopan, they're from the same family, anticholinergics, but they act on different receptors. What does that mean? Simple? Simple. It means that when a woman has menstrual cramps, it means that the uterus, which is a smooth muscle, is having contractions. So I won't explain the whole physiology of the shedding of the endometrium because she didn't get pregnant. That's why menstruation happens, so she's feeling those cramps. Why can Buscopan help relieve cramps? Because since it's an anticholinergic, it will block acetylcholine from binding to the muscles in the uterus, and there won't be those contractions. If there are no contractions, she'll stop feeling pain. So you see that it's easier to study physiology than trying to memorize it. The medication wasn't made to be memorized. The medication was made to be learned. So study physiology and the medication will come as a bonus. So with all the contractions, when you study, you know what one does and what the other doesn't. So I just gave these examples here. I talked about 3 medications, but I could talk about several other medications here. Now let's talk about a very high heart rate. A patient who has a very high heart rate, let's say a very high heart rate, 170 beats per minute, don't I have to reduce the heart rate? And isn't it epinephrine that binds to the beta-1 receptor and increases the heart rate? What if we block the beta-1 receptor? That's an alternative, so we can reduce it. And then what do we have? Beta blockers. I'll mention some names, I won't explain any classes, okay? Carvedilol, metoprolol, propranolol, atenolol, bisoprolol, and there are several others. Of course, you shouldn't use just any of them. There's a right time for each one. Most are tablets, but parenteral options exist too, all right? Another important thing you need to take into consideration is that there are other ways to reduce heart rate as long as you understand the membrane potential. For example, we can use amiodarone in some cases, lidocaine in some cases. We have other medications that can act on the membrane potential. And look, that's what causes this reduction. Guys, I'm being very honest here. I can't see another way to learn about medications other than this. If there is, someone can even tell me because I want to learn too. But I learned by studying the basics. A solid foundation in anatomy and physiology helps you with pharmacology. There's no way around it. You can buy my course. And if you buy my course and want to go straight to medications, ignoring this basic part, you're going to have trouble understanding. You can buy any pharmacology book and you'll have trouble learning pharmacology if you don't learn the basics. So here's what I'm telling you. Physiology is the foundation that will solve your pharmacology problems. Once you understand this, of course, you'll soar. You'll thank me. You'll visit my Instagram and send me a direct message saying, Professor, I finally learned about medication without memorizing everything. I only gave a few examples since the video would be too long otherwise, but I offer a full course. And I explain it in the way I believe is the best way. And we already have almost 10,000 students across Brazil and around the world who have learned about medications. Well, you can do it on your own. Start with physiology. That's my tip. That's how I learned and that's how I teach.